Not even that. Then you have Arsenal in the Europa League. They're all going to want to play well in European football.
Well, I mean, you heard what Wegener said about the Premier League versus the Europa League. They said they're focused on the Premier League because they realize that it's more important to win the Premier League than it is to get into the Champions League.
Okay, Arsenal have no chance of winning the Premier League. They should be focusing on Champions League. That's the thing. Manchester United and Jose Mourinho was right last year. Screw the Premier League. It's going to be too much of an effort. We're just going to win the Europa League, and look, we are. We're in the Champions League. Just like you, City.
And they look
just
good.
like you, Liverpool.
And they look good.
And they don't look that good.
Well, in the eyes of people, they're going to look good because they have a trophy.
No. They look good. Yes. In that sense, yes.
Yeah,
and exactly. I make that argument. I think Manchester United had more of a successful season than second place Tottenham last year.
Probably, yeah, because they won a trophy.
They won 2 trophies.
2 trophies.
The Europa, actually 3 if you include the Community Shield. The EFL Cup, the Europa
Community
League.
Shield?
Hey, still a trophy to lift.
Oh, so you like that Arsenal treble, huh? The Community Shield,
yes,
the Emirates Cup, and the Asian Premier League Cup or whatever.
Yes.
That's stupid crap.
So you have that cluster, and then you have the cluster of all the other clubs spending money to...
West Ham?
To just stay
West
in
Ham, with the money they spent with Chicharito.
Yeah.
And Joe Hart and Zabaleta.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting acquisitions.
Who is your favorite to win?
I still think it's Chelsea.
You think so? Because Chelsea feels like they're going through a setback.
My thing is, a champion should either my opinion on a champion is, and this is why I think Seattle wasn't this good in MLS, is a champion always has to get better. I think they've gotten a little bit better, marginally better than they were last season, roster wise. Now losing Matic is a huge loss. I think a lot of people are not anticipating how big of a loss that's going to be, but I still think Chelsea, champions, their team hasn't drastically not improved. I mean, they're still a quality side. And I still think with that 3-back line and Antonio Conte, I think they're still the favorites to win the league.
Yeah, they are the defending champs.
They're defending champs, and I think their team got marginally better. Now, we got to see how those signings work out. I'm not sure about paying 70 million, was it pounds or euros for Morata? I'm not really sure about that. But, I mean, outside that, they've made some decent signings.
Bakayoko.
I like
Roger,
Bakayoko, yeah.
But they lost Ake, the youngster, who...
Mm-hmm. Well, Ake was on loan at Bournemouth for the longest time.
And he was successful, and then he came back, and
then
Conte had prize for him, but they sold him. They lost a bunch of, Zumba left, Traore left again, Matic. I think Matic is going to be missed.
I think it's going to be a big loss. I don't think people anticipate it.
But so you have Chelsea, that's one, right?
Yeah.
Then you have United, who's just spent 40 million pounds on Matic. Lukaku comes in for about 80, 75. Little from Benfica, 31. Mm-hmm. So who knows? But the thing is, you just watched them against the Real Madrid in the Super Cup, and they were boring. They were a disaster. Lukaku misses a sitter. He made the other one, so it's 2-1, the final score. But they don't have a style of play. It is long balls. I don't think that's going to work. They're going to draw again a lot of games, and they had a huge... Bournemouth scored more goals than Manchester United last season.
They had a huge drawing problem last year, too.
Yeah. So then you flip side to City, who spent $500 million under Pep Guardiola in the 2 years here. Danilo from Real Madrid.
Danilo, Mendy, Walker... They're trying to shore up their backline. Their backline's a mess.
I mean, their backline, every offseason they spent all this money on
I think finally, this is the season where I think they're gonna be better off their backline. I think they've got the right players. I mean, because they've been spending, I think, a lot of money on and they've also been relying on older fullbacks, Kolarov, Zabaleta, Sanya,
Sia.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of older players that just weren't working out at fullbacks. I think they need to spend money on fullbacks. I think they did a good job. Now, the selling of Iheanacho I thought was interesting, but I think it was bound to happen. He was the odd man out, but he's still a fantastic player.
You're a City fan.
Yeah.
Let's make this clear.
Yeah.
Armand is a City fan, although he's wearing an Arsenal jersey.
I wear jerseys for fashion statements.
So all you Premier League lovers,
you can come
supporters,
roast me.
just roast him, please.
I don't care.
Please.
I look good in any jersey, so I like wearing nice ones.
Okay. Wow.
But I think they've made good enough signings and whatnot, and we're gonna see a full season of Gabriel Jesus. and that's gonna be fun to see. We saw him play.
I mean, he scored important goals last season.
Oh, for sure, and he's a fantastic player. So I mean, I think it's gonna be an exciting season for them. I think Guardiola got the right players for his system, and we're just gonna see Guardiola ball at the finest degree.
Then you move back to London. You got Tottenham.
Did nothing.
Did
transfer
nothing.
window.
They lost Walker.
The Walker was a backup. Let's be honest here.
True.
So
true. Very fair. But they did nothing. So
I think they'll go. I think they'll be lower. In the Premier League, you have to spend.
I don't know. Not with Tottenham. Tottenham are still young enough where they can. Tottenham last year were still taking the step up. They haven't reached the climax.
I think they still need to spend a little bit. That's just my 2 cents. Like I said.
Yeah, no, sure. Then there's Arsenal with Lacazette. Great. But I think they're still missing quality throughout the squad.
They're missing something in that team.
They're missing a captain. If you ask me, a true captain. Now, Granit Xhaka, I think he was a captain at Borussia Mönchengladbach. I think he can make that step up.
Swiss bias.
Shut up. I think he could be a good captain, but the problem is he's still too new and he's a little bit young. Let him grow. Now, I think he was missing Aaron Ramsey in that midfield last season, or Santi Cazorla to be more precise. I think he was missing somebody who was a little bit more creative. That way, he could take the pressure off of that, take that pressure off of him, and he could just do what he does good, which is be an enforcer, be a guy who's a stopper in the midfield, but can also ping balls pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. I think.
Then you go to Liverpool, who bring Salah.
I like Salah,
who has the Coutinho bid by Barcelona rejected twice, actually. So
right.
Who knows what Liverpool is? I think they could be sneaky good on everybody. Nobody's really paying attention to them.
I think they'll be really good, especially with Jurgen Klopp.
Yes, Jurgen Klopp. I think he's only growing the squad, and they're growing in confidence.
Right, exactly.
But Liverpool have that problem where they could beat Chelsea and then turn around and lose to Bournemouth.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
so it's the inconsistency that hurt Liverpool the most. Then there's Everton to bring in Keane, Klaassen, Martina, Pickford, Rooney. They have spent money.
I think it was an Iranian owner. It's a Persian owner. Yeah, it is. They had a Persian owner. That Persian owner take over the club, and they've been spending lots of money. I think Pickford, is going to be interesting to see.
Yes.
In my opinion, 30 million.
Mil.
It's about how much. Well, not about, but it's a little bit less than how much City played for Ederson. So I think the comparison of those two will be interesting to see. I think for sure. But I'm gonna ask you, Steven, what's your team that you think is gonna come out of nowhere and be an overachiever this year?
Ooh. That's really hard. I think Everton could be the underachiever where they spend a lot of money and they could underachieve. I think Bournemouth will be interesting. They got Jermaine Defoe. They're solid around all the at every position. They scored a phenomenal rate last season.
Right, exactly.
They scored higher than Manchester United, and I think they're sneaky good.
That's a good point.
And my other one is actually Stoke City, and here's why. I think Mark Hughes is going to be under a lot more pressure this year.
You think?
And he has to succeed.
Why do you say that?
He has to succeed in the sense that either they need to win the FA Cup or the FL Cup, or they need to win the games they should. Because often in Stoke Cities, they could beat City. That we see this.
They always beat City.
They always beat City, but then they'll turn around the following week and lose to Watford.
Yeah.
So it's just one step forward, two steps back.
I totally agree with that. But my pick, I think it's West Ham.
And there's a club that nobody talks about. They got Chicharito.
I love what West Ham has been doing this summer.
Talk about TV ratings, Mexican star.
They made a Hispanic Twitter because they got Chicharito.
Oh, they did?
They did. They made a Spanish Twitter because they got Chicharito. Chicharito, Joe Hart, Zabaleta, Arnautovic from Stoke City.
Oh, yes.
All those players going to West Ham. They had a really garbage start to the season last year. I remember. They were terrible.
In the new stadium.
And the
Payet drama.
And now I think they're going to be comfortable in the new stadium. I think they're also going to be a lot better off. I think Chicharito is still a little underrated by people, in my opinion. I think some people think he's overrated. I think he's underrated. I think he's a fantastic goal scorer. I think Joe Hart, he's back in England. He's more comfortable. I think he's going to be a better keeper than what he was in Torino. I think Zabaleta's a good option. And they've moved on from that whole Payet
fiasco.
And then Bilic is going to be just a lot better off, I think. They have more quality players. I think they're going to be a team that's going to compete for Europe. To be straight up honest with you.
But this is the cluster. I can't even pick a favorite.
To win the league?
To win the league. I can't pick it because I don't know. Manchester United, look at them and you're like, well, they have so much talent. They spent so much money. Why couldn't it? City's the same thing. And they both have world-class managers. Chelsea, defending champs. Tottenham, why can't they? They took their second place last season.
Right.
Then you look at Arsenal and you go, well, maybe Arsenal could be that surprise that nobody expects, like Chelsea last season.
Or they could just suck. Liverpool's the same issue. Yeah.
The inconsistency. If Liverpool is consistent for every match day, then you'd be like, well, they could lift it. They have that team nucleus. They have a good manager.
I mean, they almost did back on before Gerrard slipped.
Yeah, before Gerrard slipped. And then you look at the biggest concern I have looking forward to this season is European football versus the Premier League. Especially before they make the Champions League, and then Arsenal when they eventually get to the round of 32 in the Europa League in the second half of the season. What are they going to focus on?
I mean, that's why I think a lot of these teams are spending for depth. I mean, a lot of people were wondering why City was spending so much money on two fullback these position. I think a lot of teams are looking now to spend for depth. I think you need depth. I mean, you need depth in MLS, you need depth in Premier League. Because the Champions League play on not the mid-season games, so I think that depth is gonna come in handy.
Right, but in importance to at what point do you say we're fourth here in the Premier League? We're in the quarterfinals of the Champions League playing Atletico.
Well, I think the Champions League is always gonna have a little bit more
dependent on the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, honestly.
But because of Neymar's move, the Champions League is no longer just a 3-team tournament.
Not just a Real Madrid, Barcelona,
and Bayern Munich. It's no longer that. You have the 5 from the. You could see every one of the 5 from the Premier League. You could see winning Champions League. I could see Liverpool. I could see Tottenham. I could see every 5.
Yeah.
You add Juventus. You add Bayern Munich. Throw in Dortmund. Okay. Mm-hmm. You throw in that
Leipzig.
No, not yet. Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG. That's 11 clubs that you could see winning the title for the Champions League. But at what point do these Premier League clubs say, and then you have Arsenal's deal where, what if they're 5th place and they're 3 points behind Liverpool for the 4th place, but they're in the round of 32 in the Europa League, and they just had a couple of injuries and realized the likelihood of them catching that 4th place is suddenly smaller. Do they do a Manchester United where they kind of just put in the youngsters in the Premier League, get the experience, and really go in and win this trophy? Because Arsene Wenger at the end of the day could say, look, I won a trophy around the Champions League. Actually, even better, we're in the Champions League and I won a trophy. It used to be 4th place is a trophy without the trophy itself.
I think, I don't know, it's a tough question. I mean, I think it depends on the circumstance. I think it's more of it's dependent on what happens. I think, I think you can make both a priority of sorts. I think just the lower cups are going to be the ones that suffer the most, like the EFL Cup and also the FA Cup.
Yeah,
I think those are going to suffer the
FA Cup
most.
Becomes important if you're screwed and you don't have anything in.
Right.
Another club to pay attention to is I think is Southampton with the Van Dijk ordeal going on. Will he leave? Will he go? It's an absolute mess.
It's like every single year.
Brighton and Huddersfield Town I think are going to be exciting to watch. Get ready for the Newcastle supporters come out ready to roast Rafa Benitez after they lose 2 games. Newcastle's strong in negativity. Gosh. They love being negative.
Yeah, they're just a funny club.
And then you have Everton who spent all this money, and you ask why. Why do they spend this money? What's even the point? They're going to finish 7th or 8th place. They're not going to get any.
Wow, you're a pessimist. I'm glad you're not an Everton fan.
But it's it is what it is.
It's the excitement of the Premier League. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen this season. Honestly, it's more open than ever.
It's more open than ever, and that is something the MLS could learn.
Now, imagine the Premier League had a playoff.
Oh, I don't like it.
I love it.
Nah.
That's the American coming out of me.
Well, the thing is, Premier League has so much quality, I think playoff could work. The MLS doesn't have that quality and that buzz. Just
imagine a 4-team playoff. Top 4. Play for bragging rights. All 4 get Champions League spots.
Now you're on to something.
See?
If you just 8, you can't do 8. It has to be 4.
It has to be 4. It can't be 8. 8's too much. Do 4. No wild card BS or anything. Just
Do you all play at Wembley?
No, you play at the respective grounds for the first two matches. For the semifinal games, and the final you play at